right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Critical Trigger. This one will be majority a news episode as we've got some in-game updates, some out-of-game updates, and such. And to help me cover it all, I have a special guest, Megane. Welcome to the show, Megane.
Hello, everybody. I'm Megane. I'm a content creator for different games, particularly also competes in Vanguard Zero, both on the global server and the JP server. And can't wait to give my input, especially for what is coming up and potentially coming up for December.
All right, now the first thing I want to cover is the announcement that if you woke up and turned your game on, you saw they already had announced the new gacha, which will be released tomorrow, and it's going to feature 69 new cards, I believe it said, and it's only going to have the new cards. So nothing old. You'll only be pulling from a new pile of cards, and they'll also have the sparking system. So Megane, what do you think about that?
Sparking system is very good, especially with considering some people have very incomplete decks or even potential budget decks. This is going to be very good for people that really want to get those specific cards. And I'd say that this is going to be very important with December's meta is looking not as stacked as Libs and Eradicators, but this new set does look like it will have some contenders who we'll talk about in the new cards. I think overall the sparking system is going to be very crucial, especially for those who kind of in the circuit or in other places tournaments don't have some missing key cards, and especially good to fill in those gaps because you of course want to play with a complete deck.
Very true, very true. Now, as you mentioned with the Eradicators set, so the previous set, or I guess technically current set that we're on, they released it no sparking, and then after the first ranked season of it, they then released sparking for it. I'm personally not a fan of that method. I feel like just release it with sparking off the rip. It seemed like a money-hungry move. What do you think? Do you have a preference about the sparking system being released?
It's interesting you say that because when I was scouting the Steel Dragons gacha, which is going to be January, in that basically the only sparking you really had is of the new cards, and specifically they are SP cards as well. So you really couldn't do like the old gacha system basically, but getting the newer cards specifically if you want to try to complete those new decks is critical, especially considering that if you really want to go all in on that, you definitely use the sparking system, but also 100 packs is kind of a little bit of an ask if I do say so myself. So pretty much you really have got to key save, and especially if you're going for a clan that kind of like resets, especially like considering that some of these newer cards are built off of just brand new Jewel Knights, for example, which we'll talk about. Those ones definitely focus on just a base through and not really need old cards. Well, you could use technically Ganslot and Blaster Blade as well, but if you kind of want to just go like a core names, because that's really the theme of Link Joker. Link Joker focuses on like name builds, like we talked about Liberators and Eradicators, those types of stuff. Those ones are specifically just brand new, and I'm curious about how people utilize the sparking because we see a lot of SPs. Shirayasha, for example, really filled in the Eradicators with the sparking as well. So that's a good example.
True, but I think he also might be an example of a whale, which is the real minority in the community. I think the majority of the community are like somewhere in between free to play and paying for gems occasionally.
Yeah, I'm mostly I'm mostly F2P. Considering that I'm also mostly a tied to event clans because I really love event clans. But generally, yeah, for those people who really want to get the core gacha, then definitely sparking could be interesting, but you would have to definitely either hard save or just go straight through. Go try to see what you can get through it. Because a lot of people, sometimes they don't have enough for sparking, but then they try to build as much gems as possible. or packs to utilize, and then spend it there to try to get that spark up, which I'm guilty of it myself in JP. Tried to get the Link Joker, tried to get one more Link Joker break ride. So I tried to spend as much as possible grinding a lot of the game. But we'll see how this utilized, and seeing how Ladder can really utilize some SPs potentially or old.
Yeah. And speaking of utilization, let's go ahead and talk briefly or a little bit about the 4 decks, or at least the decks that'll be getting support with this upcoming gacha. We could start with Royal Paladin, which will be getting, as you said, Jewel Knights. And I believe that playstyle is what you play cards, superior call, build your board up. They get stronger with having the same name on the board, and their break ride gives power and a crit.
Yep. Always great to get some extra crit pressure as well.
Yeah. Where do you think this will fit into the meta?
I think it's going to be very good initially. What's really key is that right now in JP, 3 months ahead of what Global has, there is still a lot of Dual Knights players, so this will have some deck with some good longevity. Especially when we get into reverses, which will be a pretty long time as well. This is still going to be a contender towards there. So when Dual Knights gets support, it's going to be a lot more lethal. But generally, at least now, it's going to be potentially a contender. I think it'll still be very strong, especially the break ride. The crits gain is very important, and especially when you limit break, I think you still gain another crit at that, so you can do a crit 3 attack, which is going to be very good for pressuring, and especially that Jewel Knights is pretty standard through, and I think that this will be good if you don't want to go kind of MLB. If you didn't go MLB before, and you kind of wanted to play Royal Paladin, but go for a little bit more of that making aspect, then Jewel Knights is pretty much a go through.
Yeah, and the break ride being Pure Heart Jewel Knight Ashley, that's going to be a triple rare, so I believe 4 copies is going to be necessary for an optimal build. So if you guys have been saving your Royal Paladin resources, that's going to be what I would spend it on anyway. Unless, do you know if it'll be a reward for a ranked season at all?
I think one of them is a reward. I'm not sure if it's specifically the break ride. I think it is Slime. I believe that's the reward. If not, I can probably double check that in the comments below. But I do remember that Royal Paladin does have another season within it.
And that's the one where you can call units up to the amount of crits on the card, right?
Yeah, and then you gain extra crit, basically. A lot of it just plays around the Jewel Knight's name. It's pretty standard in the Link Joker arc stuff. You play around stuff with the same name. Excluding some other stuff, but pretty much, yeah, it's basically trying to work around as having as much Jewel Knights on the board as possible.
All right, so that'll wrap up our Royals conversation. Let's move on to Angels, personal favorite of mine. I really enjoy playing Angel Feathers. They are getting some support in the form of Celestials. What are your thoughts?
Celestials actually is a little bit of a different archetype. So basically, it's kind of like you do have some pieces that you could build around potentially. Like, of course, at least what I've seen in JPs during this meta, I've seen Angel Feather players still use an OCL. The OCL is very important. And I'd say that as well, some other potential cards as well. You can kind of have some backups. For example, was a one grade 3. I think it's just Shamshiel. Shamshiel is kind of also standard within a Celestials deck, despite not having the Celestials name. But Ramiel is going to be very important throughout, because that's going to be the main G3. And I'm excited to see what comes out through. Angels actually wasn't played as much, but I kind of said the same thing For some of these dark horse decks, I'm gonna call it a dark deck because I think you have the right Angel Feather player, and you really know what to do with utilize the deck. Then
So
definitely
me.
this will be very lethal. For example, one of the circuits, Shiver, he played with Metatron, I believe,
Yep. Yep.
and he's a very good Angel Feather player. I think he won Trinity Clan Clash Rebirth. I mean, he won Trinity Clan Clash first arc with his Angel Feather deck, and I'd say for those specific players, if you really know how to maneuver the deck, then they can be huge contenders as well.
Yep. He's specifically who I yoinked my Angels deck list from. So by default, I consider myself the second best Angel player. But I'm excited for it because Angels just was not working for me when the Eradicators came out. But I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna make another try at making them work, and it's seeming like you can more easily get off multi hits when you combo it with the grade 3 that can return to the damage zone and call.
Yeah.
So I
That's
am
just a kind of critical part with Angel Feather. Angel Feather is a lot more defensive focused, but it kind of just needs a little bit more some offensive power. Celestials can start to at least build some more of that, but overall, still your goal is really to try to get stuff from damage zone, especially with PGs. That's the good uniqueness of Angel Feather is that you can try to get as much defensive options as possible, and potentially hopefully get some attack extension like Medical Gunner. Still old pieces, but I've seen different Angel Feather builds with Celestials, so we'll see. We'll see overall how it depends through, and we'll see if
I'll be
Angels will get
building
back
with,
into contention.
Shiver for this one for sure.
Hurts.
All right, next up, Oracles will be getting some support as well, and this will introduce their, I guess, anime ability that we saw maybe the second most. We probably saw Bind the most in anime, but this will introduce their I know what's coming next on the top of my deck skill, right?
Yeah, it's basically like you really have to have good focus with how your deck goes throughout. I think though, looking at the Magus build, it's kind of questionable. Only because I still think Tsukuyomi is still very, very strong, just because of the mechanics of stacking. And I don't know if this will overtake Tsukuyomi. I'd say the Break Ride's still pretty good, though. I'd say the Break Ride is pretty strong, but I'd say some of it also doesn't have a utilization of Silent Tom, which is interesting. At least some, because it focuses on a lot more throughout pressure. Some people try to add some Tom in it as well. But generally, I think that Tsukuyomi is still the more popular archetype just because of the utilization of Silent Tom and utilization of stacking. But it is still at least going to be something through. I kind of see this potentially ran more in ladder than competitive. But if you are trying to do a little bit of a different, if you don't like Tsukuyomi, then this could be good, especially if you didn't like Battle Sisters. Then potentially this could be something that you can look for in another OTT deck.
Do you think the rise of OTT Pat will come back with the release of this, or no?
I'm not specifically sure if he prefers this. I feel like he just still prefers Tsukuyomi. I don't know about the Break Ride, and I think the Break Ride is though going to be pretty interesting of the way you can change up some patterns. But I feel the stacking element is more of his strength. So I feel like that he's probably going to go more to he's more also deck. He's more deck shifting a lot. Kind of like me. Kind of like seeing like what kind of works throughout. I think 2 weeks ago, I believe, Circuit 19, he did not play an OTT deck. And he was trying to do some different stuff as well. I think he played Erads as one and another deck, I believe. So potentially we'll see. But I still think that Tsukuyomi still favors it all. This could be potentially the second best until maybe Battle Sisters will be getting new gacha in JP, but we're not here to talk about JP. But yeah, basically, this will be the utilization of OTP until Battle Sister support. But I still think that Tsukiyomi is still going to have a huge longevity, especially I see still a lot of Tsukiyomi everywhere. Global, JP, etc. I still
Yeah,
see a lot of that.
the Tsukiyomi build just recently took top 4 in the JP Fall Fest, right?
Yeah, Autumn Champs. And it's basically just because of the. It's kind of like other decks. Like, I always say that Cross Ride decks is still going to have a good longevity just because of the uniqueness. Like, Shadow Paladin has that retire stuff, and that's why PBO is still a contender. And Dode, of course, as well. Those type of stuff are usually has good longevity, and Tsukiyomi has been there since May, and it's still very, very good. It's just because of the uniqueness, especially the utilization of Silent Tom, then which is how the deck is able to basically win throughout in 2 deck.
Yep. And the fourth deck that's getting support that's been probably one of the most supported decks and most you can get something from rank ladder units type of deck is Bermuda. I personally hate Bermuda, but that's just me. I know a lot of people love it. What are your thoughts on the support Bermuda's getting?
I think Prisms will potentially be the strongest archetype in Zero so far. It's good because Prisms has some nice usability of the board. I think some people also that play Bermuda's kind of depends on a lot of drawing power or depends on trying to move around the board as much as possible. Prisms Labrador, I've seen a lot of it in JP. Maybe it's because of the aesthetic, maybe it's because of utilization of prisms. But what some people also have done is that sometimes you can't even play Coral with this because you have to go all prisms. Some people have tried to utilize a Coral as well. I'm mostly a Coral player, considering I stacked a lot of the pieces during the Aquaforce, I believe it's Aquaforce gacha. During that time, I'd say that Prisms, though, is going to be super strong. If you see in the anime, actually, the fight between Emi and Shingo, I believe, it shows a lot of what Prisms can do in the same Limelight, and it's so good with power stacking as well. And that's an important thing for Vanguard if you want to try to go 3 to face. Because definitely you want to try to go stack as much numbers as you can, and with prisms, you can definitely do that.
And let's say you can only go after one of these decks, right? Only save materials for one of these decks. It has to take you through ladder, and it has to be able to help you compete in the tournament scene. Let's specifically just say our global tournament scene that we've got going on that we'll talk about a little bit later. What is the best deck from these 4 that you could see penetrating the tournament scene?
Jewel Knights easily.
Jewel Knights. Okay.
I think mostly also because I've seen a lot of builds still use Ganslot, and of course we know what happens when you use Ganslot.
You heal a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Though I do say that some people also are kind of weary with their cost, with their CB usage. So I think that's kind of a potential con with it, because Blaster Blade is especially your pusher if you want to add that to a Jewel Knights deck. But I've also seen people do it without Ganslot. But let's be real, Ganslot has always been a good heal, and it's just easily to take in. I'd say, though, people have also been running lesser Blaster Blades compared to an MLB deck. Mm-hmm. So definitely that's something to keep wary, because Ganslot can go back to hand, but if you start running out of Blaster Blades, then you'll really start to lose out some pressure, because you'll just be stuck with a Ganslot that you kind of just have to play on the board. And you kind of don't want Ganslot to play on the board, especially.
True. Very true. All right, so with that being said, that is our take on the gacha, the sparking system, as well as the new card / decks that are coming out or getting support.
Also to mention, there is no event clan, at least announced yet. There will be a Christmas event in the first half. Second half is projected to be Murakumo, which is my main in Zero, which is basically my favorite deck ever. So if they announce Murakumo there, then that's potential another event gotcha as well. Another one could be potentially swapped out, but I feel like they're just gonna do Murakumo anyways because that's how the order went in JP is Titan Dragons. But I feel like they're gonna release that in January as well. So keep that in mind. It's just basic event. I think Dice event regular if you want to get your Kai or Aichi skins, I believe. Then pretty much, yeah, you can just go try to do that as well. I mean, again, you can still kind of play. You'll be playing more Royals too, except you want to go with more Korin, which I think is also a skin that's will be released soon. And Kai if you play Dote, or we'll be playing Dote like D3 Break Ride. That's for example. So yeah, keep that in mind. That will be the events coming out in the in-game as well. We only have one confirmed event. The other is to be determined. It could be also another Dice event for all I know, but I feel like it's going to be Murakumo.
All right. So with that being said, we'll move to out of game news and briefly discuss the previous week of tournaments. So this past week, I'm pretty for sure more tournaments went on than the ones we're talking about, but we're just highlighting these specifically because we have the most information on them. But let's start with circuit number 20, the tournament that I host. We didn't hit the goal of 64, but we did get 48, which did push to the fourth threshold of prizes that Bushy Roads offer because it was
shout out to everybody. Shout out to everyone, by the way, that attended this. I think that's the most amount of people attended for a circuit. I think. I believe. Even with the DQs.
DQs. It was very few DQs.
Yeah.
But so 48 man, kind of had about the same runtime, which I was pretty happy about. It came down to I think Renovis versus Nut, and Nut took it all in the end. And what was your experience like in the circuit?
Yeah, for me, I play on the circuit, except I had to. So funny story. I actually, after my series versus Swipe Right Please, I had to go immediately cook dinner, and then that's why I kind of I was tried to multitask, but unfortunately I had to time out at some points, which ultimately led me to lose the series. But that's another story for maybe a future video. To the time I was cooking and I lost the tournament. But speaking of that, I think the same opponent that I had that was in the finals. I think what was his name again? Nuts opponent.
Renovis.
Yeah, Renovis. I played him. He had Spike Brothers, and I think he had one. I had another deck, but I'm not sure which one it was. But I'd say his Spikes playthrough was very, very good overall. And I'd say that Nut always has been very consistent in plays, especially if you've seen him in clan battles. Very consistent player, and hasn't really shown any signs of dropping through. I think Nut went far in Circuit 19 as well, I believe. You can correct me on that. And Nut has really been on fire the last few circuits.
Yeah,
which is very
this
good.
is like his second win in like 3 or 4 weeks of the circuit, as well as coming off of being his former teammate, winning in clan battles as well. So team success, solo success. Nut has been a pretty dominant player as of late.
I'd say also Eradicators have kind of been iffy. You probably could agree because you've casted different Erads. Sometimes Erads has just kind of falls off. But I'd say that definitely in Nut's case, he has been really winning with the Eradicators build. A lot of people are winning with Narukami builds with more of the Gunners or maybe a hybrid. But I'd definitely say that he's probably one of the most consistent Eradicators players that has been really topping through. And I gotta say that's definitely good, especially considering that the pieces. Some people could get a little bit like shaked upon. Dragonic Descendant is an example of it because some people are a little bit confused with tracking and Gauntlet Buster as well. Sometimes you could overuse a cost and then instead get PG'd and then you have to end turn, and that's kind of a backlash through. But I think that it will start to be, especially when there's more Narukami support, then there should be at least more consistency in topping with Eradicators as well. Right now, just some people unexpectedly struggle with Eradicators compared to the Gs, like the good stuff on Narukami.
I think that Eradicators brought upon a wave of players who know that the deck is good, borderline, or sometimes not borderline OP, but they rely on the deck and not necessarily their skills or intuition as players, and it kind of hinder their growth. Whereas if you watch Nut play Eradicators, he sometimes won't make the typical play that you would see your typical Eradicator player make because he has more skill than that and can read the situation and can just outplay you. He doesn't need Eradicators to win. He just so happens to use them. Where I think
it's very good for him considering that he really knows when to play a lot of key pieces. Some Eradicators players kind of, when they play also Desert Gunners, they kind of want to just push lethal. Yeah. And sometimes that pushing lethal can really have a backlash on you, considering that it's like, okay, I stop you here, but then you have like Spike Brothers, for example. If you have like two brackies on the field and you just negate intercept on them and just try to go for lethal, that might hurt you if the Vanguard Spike Brother player has his Deadly Emperor, and especially that if you don't have the PGs. So you kind of have to be careful of really how you want to swing for lethal and really go in. I'd say that Nut really has some good patience as a player.
Definitely. But let's move on to the next tournament I want to talk about that I unexpectedly casted for, the QK prized weekly number 6. Took place Saturday. I was actually signed up to participate in it, but at the last second, I believe Coco said he needed somebody who would stream it. So I offered my streaming services rather than winning it. I could have won it, but I wanted to stream it instead. And that wound up coming down between Patrician Pat and Matrix Music.
Oh wow, two classics in the circuit.
A lot of trash talking going on in the Twitch chat, but Matrix Music came out on top and won it all with Aquaforce. He beat Nova Grapplers twice. Now I want to say Pat did show his butt off in that tournament with Nova Grapplers. He 2'd lethal somebody, which I had never seen before this. So he definitely had an amazing tournament run, but you could tell Matrix wanted to win a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very good competitive. I'd say this, that Ethics Buster is one of those decks that really isn't shown in ladder, but is really shown in competitive. And it's really all down to how can people really play Ethics Buster overall. Saying in JP side on my end, like when playing against Ethics Buster Extreme, is that people really know how to combo with it, especially with that pieces, and then like even Blaus right now. People really know how to utilize how do I attack, which areas do I go through, and how do I increase my numbers as well. And that's a good thing about Ethics Buster, because it is a tier 1 deck. But just not shown a lot in ladder. It's not really a grind deck. Like you kind of feel that way, right? It's kind of like there's some decks that you kind of just want to grind in ladder, and some decks are more meant for just winning tournaments or even both. So I definitely say that Ethics Buster is more that competitive deck, but not really shown itself in ladder. I haven't really seen much Ethics Buster in ladder myself.
Yeah. Then there was the Morikawa Shirayesha monthly tournament that lasted for, I think, 10 hours total, 7 hours the first day. Had to extend top 8 to the next day. And ultimately, Absolute, who is a absolute beast of a player, came out on top.
Yep. Remember he made semis. In the meme circuit, Circuit 18, which if we have time we can get to. But I'd say looking at his decks, kind of standard throughout. Shadow Paladin though is pretty interesting. He's playing a way different build. I think this is Spectrals. I think this is the Spectral Shadow Paladin build. But then also there's different pieces that I would not expected. Like there's Chrome Jailer, other stuff. Like I see these in this, but that's interesting. And for the main too, a lot of people kind of lessen their domains overall. But I think that's very good for the filtering. Looking at the other decks as well, Narukami, we're not really surprised. But it also does have some key Erads pieces, like Gauntlet Buster Dragon. And Aqua Force, it's kind of like pretty much the standard of Aqua Force at the moment until Transcore comes in, which will be in January. But yeah, pretty much not really that surprised with these first two builds. The second one though, Spectral Shadows, which is a lot of people change opinions on, considering that Spectral Shadows has been pretty interesting to play against. At least I do say so myself.
Yeah, and I think that's, like I said, more tournaments did come or happen. There was also another tournament I was signed up for, I think, Neo's weekly tournament, but me casting the QK kind of bled over into the start time of that. So I wound up forfeiting to, I forget who, but he wound up coming by the Twitch chat later and saying what's up. But
I was supposed to compete in the tournament as well. JP server tournament, which helps with gaijins like myself, aka the people that just mostly speak English or other languages. I was supposed to compete at that, but I ended up being busy. Was going to bring some decks that are not out yet in global. But yeah, there's that. Shoutouts to DJ Zura, I believe, who streamed it as well. And there's pretty much, some good tournament support, actually. Especially now, considering that we're starting to get towards the winter breaks, a lot more people are starting to compete as well in Zero.
Yeah, I hope the tournament participation goes up. And speaking of the tournaments for this upcoming week, unless things change, there is, I think, QK dailies as well as weekly, as well as Coco Cup. Again, unless things change, and if they do, I'm sure they'll announce. I believe there'll be another weekend Morikawa tournament, right?
Yeah, I believe. I'll probably check that out. Could also post in the comments below some information on that. But I haven't been attending because I've just been busy with with university classes, which is understandable. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot through tournaments as well. And if you also want, feel free to ask me. I'm Megane 2000 on Discord if you want some more server information, competitive information for other tournaments as well. Always great to share throughout and see what's really up there for tournaments. So we will all let you know. Also, the Den. I think the Den will also has a section to post tournaments in, so you can go check out the Den as well.
Yep. If you go to partner promotions, you can usually find some of the most up-to-date information on tournaments that are coming up for the week. There will be no circuit this week. I am instead going to do an exhibition match to start or be part of the rollout for Clan Battles Season 2. And so far, unless things change, it's looking like it's going to be the reigning champs, TOF, versus one of our new clans, SF6, or Swing for 6, who I am sponsoring. So far I've sponsored one clan each season. This season I chose to do it with a newer clan, a clan of randoms. I think mostly people who had not known each other prior to being a part of this. So this will be very interesting. A team of essentially rookies, not rookies to Vanguard, but just rookies to clan battles going up against the champs. This will be very interesting.
Yep. And yeah, I'm gonna be excited for see TOF versus SF6. As a former TOF fan, kind of want to be biased, but hopefully TOF has a good showing throughout. As a former member, and SF6 actually has pretty good common names there. A key one is a Nitro player, who I've known since I was an admin. Well, the first day I think I was an admin Vanguard Zero community server. That server, Nitro player, was someone that joined a lot of tournaments. Considering he also played a lot of Coco during that time, which I think is one of his favorite decks to play all time. So I'd say that I'm excited to see him in the league. I'm excited to see a lot more new names through in the league, especially OG. If you see OG, I gotta say that team already looks very stacked in the offseason. I do say so myself.
OG, being Olympian guys, the Shiro-led team.
Yeah, with Daikun and Josh and a lot of other players as well, really starting to look like a stacked team on that end.
Yep, and speaking of clan battles, I will also on Friday be revealing the conference names. So we're going to split the teams into 2 conferences, and they will mostly battle inside those conferences for their records and to secure playoff spots and to work towards the championships. And I will try to figure out how to visually do a drawing and sort those teams into the conferences. So that'll precede the exhibition match, which will be 7 p.m. CST on Friday. So I will try to do the conference sorting at 6 p.m. CST to lead into it. With that being said, another new team, Chuni Clan, you yourself are the leader of. Talk to me a little bit about your expectations for the season.
I'm excited overall. This is actually the first time we are all competing in one banner. We've all mostly have been pretty busy of some sort throughout. Some of us compete in tournaments through, and some of us as well. Some of us as well have been really active within the Vanguard Zero community. What's going to be pretty cool is that this is just mostly a team with with me and my buddies, and something that I've formed since December of last year. So we're heading up to our 1-year anniversary, and we're excited to really be competing in clan battles, Chini clan battles. We're hoping, and for that, we have some pretty good teammates that I'm bringing along. Of course, we have Twin Tail, who is the co-founder as well. And then also we have 2 others, Darkness and Edgeworth. And Edgeworth has competed in different tournaments. Actually won. If you remember who Gold is, she actually won against me in Gold's second tournament on the Vanguard Zero community server back in, I think, May, I believe. So that was very cool. And what's great about my teammates as well is that all of them have had prior Vanguard experience since 2012. So this is going to be a different foray. They've been there, really, and they remember a lot of these cards that are releasing at the moment. For me, I started Vanguard in April of this year. So I started with 0. And it's going to be pretty good that we have some experienced and intelligent veterans. And I'm really excited through. We got good majority of our overall clan rounded out. And especially considering that also big shout outs to 2 other teammates who also play Vanguard Zero, but in different ways. Yokai, who plays on the JP server specifically, and then Yune, who plays casually. They won't be competing in clan battles, but still great to mention them because this is a clan that I've ran me and my teammate Twintail have ran, and I'm excited to see how it goes, especially considering that some of the decks we'll see how we'll utilize. We might bring out some surprises. Who knows? And we're excited to see how we'll go through as a team, especially with whatever conference we're drawn to as well. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for the start of the season, which will be next Monday. So in 7 days will be the start of Clan Battles Season 2. So everybody keep your eyes peeled for that. A lot of new things, a lot of new teams, new layout, new broadcasters, a lot of new things going on for Season 2. But something that won't be new is the hunger and the intense matches that the players will bring to us.
Yeah, I'm excited to play against everybody, especially seeing names that I played against in the circuit or other sense. Even some returning people as well. Some people that haven't... I think there's some people that haven't played in a bit and are rejoining with this league. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to go through that.
All right. I think that's just about do it.
I have one more news because we just got this announcement just now for Clan. So we just got the list, and it's officially confirmed that Murakumo will be released on December 17th. We just got this news while we were recording as well.
Okay, breaking
news. Unfortunate timing, but yes, people, Murakumo is coming this December 17th. And you know me, I'm gonna try to complete that deck day one. Mm-hmm. I have almost 9k gems, 999 stamina, and an incomplete story. So you know me, I'm going all in with that deck. So y'all better watch out, because also, it'll also be the end of. It should be the last, almost the last day of finals. So I'll be competing in a lot more tournaments, so like that. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this event through has, and I'm excited to see the progression of Vanguard Zero overall, especially heading into the new year. It's almost 2021, so yep.
Yeah, and so after that breaking news, I think now that's just gonna about wrap up this episode of Critical Trigger. I want to thank Megane again for coming on and helping me out. It was a bit last minute. I tried to give you as much heads up as I could, so hopefully it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't that much stacked in minutes. Try to lessen as much conversation, but just speaking through my mind.
We're running around 42 minutes. That's fine for a podcast. I'm sure people can just run us in the background while climbing ladder and facing their 50th Eradicator deck. So
yeah, remember to do your dailies. Remember to get your 1 million VP.
Yeah,
just as a reminder, if you're climbing ladder. I'm not gonna hit 1 million VP because I've been playing JP a lot, but I want those 300 gems. I'm close to that 300 gems in VP, so at least there's that.
I'm 100.
But yeah, thank you for having me as well.
Of a million. But yeah, it's a pleasure having you on. Hopefully I can have you on for future news heavy episodes, and I'll be back at you guys later with another episode of Critical Trigger in the future. Till then, keep playing Vanguard and keep grinding.